Well, welcome everybody. I'm Laura Kawamura, and I'm at the Kauai Extension Office. Today we're going to cover some food safety, some basic kitchen safety, and some basic food preparation skills that will be applicable to your 4-H cooking and nutrition project. So I'm glad you're with us, and I'm learning this too, so bear with me. So cooking with kids is much more than learning to feed people, because as we cook with them, we grab the opportunity to teach them valuable life skills. Yes, so they can feed themselves one day, but also it gives them options to prepare some healthy meals and snacks instead of always going out and buying fast food and prepared items, and will help them learn to keep to a budget as they get older. When we start them young, we help them develop their fine motor skills. Sharing in conversation with them, providing instruction, and explaining new cooking concepts can help them build their vocabulary skills. And who says that kids should have all the fun? Bonding time is fun for both youth and adults when we do cooking projects. So you all probably know how important it is to provide age-appropriate activities for you. And we know that every child is different, and we want each to obtain their personal best. So when assigning tasks in the kitchen, consider the developmental level of each one. Always consider the age of the child and assign jobs they can safely do. So let me share with you some suggested tasks based on these 3 different age groups. Five-year-olds. Some of you may call them 4-H clover bugs. These youth are starting to master their fine motor skills, and they are very proud of it. They'll let you know. And they can do things in the kitchen like scrub potatoes, pare lettuce, snap the ends off of the peas, dip vegetables, pour milk, shake a dressing, spread butter, mix pancake batter, peel carrots, mash bananas, roll breadsticks, juice some tangerines, and beat eggs for some ideas. And with your help, they may also be able to fill measuring spoons, dry measuring cups, and wet measuring cups, which we'll go through later. And depending on the child, you can start teaching them cutting skills with a plastic knife, not a real one, with semi-soft foods such as brie cheese or watermelon and bananas. So, a 6 to 8-year-old, they can do everything a 5-year-old can do, but with some instruction and some supervision, they can engage in more difficult tasks, such as peeling onions and garlic, opening cans. Make sure you have a good can opener, grate cheese, crack eggs, identify measuring utensils, and measure the ingredients. They're starting to learn to read words and numbers, so can identify these things. And also, they love to wash dishes and put away leftover ingredients and utensils. Now, as they get older, we think, okay, they can do a lot on their own, but these kids in the preteen group still will need some supervision in the kitchen. But you can challenge them to plan and prepare simple meals and snacks by following a recipe. They can measure accurately. They are able to read and interpret food labels, operate small appliances, and do some moderate chopping, and also some pan frying, steaming, boiling, and baking. And of course, they do a great job at cleaning up, storing the ingredients, and prepared food so they are safe. So, is your kitchen or cooking facility safe for your 4-H youth? Let's go through a quick checklist, and you can rate yourselves. Okay, so here's my checklist. We're going to go through these 10 items. If you have a scratch piece of paper and a pencil, I want you to write down the numbers 1 to 10 vertically. And we're going to go through each of these things, and you're going to answer yes or no. We will do this privately, so no one will know your answers, and I promise not to let you share. So be honest with yourself. Okay? So if you have your piece of paper with 1 to 10, the first one is I wipe up spills on the floor and counters right away. Is that a yes or a no? The second one, I close cabinet doors and drawers after opening them in the kitchen. Yes or no? I open pan lids containing hot steam away from my face. Yes or no? When I use a knife, I cut away from my hand and not toward it. Yes or no? I turn pot handles toward the middle of the stove. Yes or no? I pay attention to what I'm doing and try not to rush. Yes or no? I have a fire extinguisher and I know how to use it. Yes or no? I always use pot holders when handling hot pots. Yes or no? I take precautions when with long, loose sleeves and long hair. Yes or no? And I teach you to follow kitchen rules at home and at 4-H. Okay, so I want you to tally up all your yeses and all your nos. And the safe kitchen answers to these should all be yes. So if there is any item that you answered no to, great, Lachelle, I see you said yes to all of them. You didn't have to share, but thank you for sharing. And if there are any no's there, those are some areas that you want to work to improve. Okay? So a safe kitchen will help to prevent accidents. Do you know what kind of accidents most often happen in the kitchen? I'm going to reveal to you the most frequent accidents that happen in the kitchen. So here we go. The first one is burns. So I want you to take a look at the photo on the top left. The handle of the pot is turned in, and that's good. But if the spoon is lying in the pot like that, it can be knocked off, and the hot contents could go flying and burn you. So look on the top right. What happens if we have a small fire on the stove? And who has a fire extinguisher and knows how to use it in case something like that happens? Because when it happens, you won't have time to go and find one stored away in your closet. Okay, and we look at the bottom photo. How will you remove the cover of that steaming pot on the bottom left? Now the person on the bottom right is doing a good job. They're using a pot holder and lifting it away from their face and body to avoid a steam burn. You might think that these things are common sense items, but because they don't happen to us very often, and we hope not at all, we sometimes forget, and we certainly need to teach our youth these safety measures. If youth come to your center or meeting with long loose sleeves or long hair that's hanging down, be sure to have rubber bands handy so they can tie back their hair, or they can use them to pull back and tie those long flowing sleeves that may easily catch on fire. Another frequent accident in the kitchen is cuts. So we look at the cutting skills on the left. We should never cut toward your hand like the top left photo, and never cut anything in your hand like that left bottom photo, even if you have a glove on. Your knife will cut right through it. So the proper way to slice food is to place your food on a secure cutting board and cut away from your hand, like the photo on the right. I know my kitchen counter is a bit slippery, and I like to use those plastic cutting boards. And so I always put a damp cloth underneath my cutting board to prevent it from moving around. And the third type of kitchen accidents are usually falls. So have you ever dropped a bowl of milk like the top left photo? Maybe it was just a little bit instead of that big glob like we see here. And think back, did you walk around it for a while because you were busy in the middle of cooking something, or did you take a few minutes to clean it up right away? Like the photo on the bottom, take just a few minutes to wipe up spills on the floor or counter immediately. Leaving it can make you fall and can slow you down more in the long run, not to mention the possibility of getting badly hurt. Now, after we gather utensils from cabinets and drawers, do keep them open like the photo on the right. When we're in a rush, we tend to forget that it's open, and a quick turnaround could make you bump into that open drawer and fall. Ouch. Yes, so now that we've taken precautions to have a safe kitchen, let's get cooking. So my goal with cooking is to always try to produce delicious, healthy food with my efforts. And I'm sure that's what you want for yourself and your 4-Hers too. So to achieve this, we need to be able to follow a recipe. It's like an instruction manual in the kitchen. And recipes sometimes contain words and terms that may be unfamiliar to your 4-H members. So teaching them the proper food prep skills is teaching them the proper words and terms so we have a successful dish. So what we want to do every time we prepare something is to read through the recipe before beginning. Next, we gather all of the supplies that we need, and then we prepare the ingredients. Be sure to know what each cooking term means and know how to measure them correctly. If something is familiar, this is the time to stop, look it up, and learn before proceeding. We want to know the names and functions of some basic kitchen tools. So using the correct tool for the job makes cooking go safer and a lot smoother. We have a website here where you can find a ton of information. But on our Nutrition Education for Wellness website is a handout called Winning Ways in the Kitchen. And this is just a part of it, but it will list many different cooking terms and methods and describe it to you. So go to this website, and this is the URL to access Winning Ways in the Kitchen. So how do we measure ingredients? Mismeasuring ingredients is the most common mistake that leads to a failed recipe. Now, liquids should always be measured in a liquid measuring cup, like the one on the top right. It's usually clear and it has markings on the side, and it usually has a spout and some extra space on the top of the markings, like you see here. They come in a 1 cup, 2 cup, 4 cup, and 8 cup size. So you can choose the size that's most appropriate. The extra space at the top prevents spilling of liquids, and the spout makes it easier to pour. So to measure liquids correctly, we need to place the measuring cup on the counter and fill to the appropriate line by viewing it at eye level. If we view it from the top, like the photo on the left, it can give you a false reading. So we're going to look at it at eye level, like the middle photo that contains oil. And if you look at diagram A on the right of that, whenever you use a liquid measuring cup, the surface will curve downward into a U shape. And so the proper placement of that U should be when the bottom of the U touches the measuring line is the correct measurement for any kind of liquid. Dry measuring cups look like the set on the top, and sometimes they come in different materials and different shapes. I know I have some deep ones, I have some wide and shallow ones, but they're standardized, meaning that if it says it's a 1 cup measure, no matter what shape it is, it will hold 1 cup of dry ingredients. So the name tells us what we should be using these for. A common mistake is that we measure light ingredients like flour by scooping it in to our bag and then leveling it off. We see that often like on the cooking shows, but that's not quite the right way to measure. So whenever you have something light like flour, you want to fluff up the flour in the container first, get a spoon, and you're going to fill the cup using a spoon. Okay, we don't want to pack it down. We're going to lightly fill it in until it's mounded, just like the photo. Then we want to get a straight edge, and then you're going to level it off like the photo on the right. Now be careful if you choose a knife to level it off, that you use the straight side, because if you use a curved side, then it could leave you with less than what you really need. And measuring spoons are usually for measuring both dry ingredients and liquid ingredients in small amounts. So usually if you need to measure something less than 1/4 of a cup, you would use a measuring spoon. And these would be used for things like baking powder, salt, sugar, or spices. So same thing, you would fill your measuring spoon into a heaping amount, and like the photo on the left, you're going to level it off, just like we did with the flour. Some cans, like the one in the middle, is baking powder, and it may come with a straight edge that you can scoop and level off right in the can. And small amounts of liquids can be measured using these spoons too. Make sure you don't do it over the bowl, because it might spill over and you'll get a lot more than you need. But you will need to fill it full and be very careful not to spill it while transferring it to the bowl. Of course, there are always exceptions. And one exception is measuring in a dry measuring cup with something that's sticky. So here on the left, we have brown sugar. And what happens when you have a product that's sticky, it forms air bubbles within it. And so brown sugar is one exception where you don't want to fluff it up and spoon it in lightly, but you want to spoon it into your cup and pack it down with a spoon so we get all of the air bubbles out. You see that middle photo? If you flip over your measuring cup, your brown sugar should hold the shape just like that. You can also measure sticky things like peanut butter in the same fashion. You will need to use a spoon or a rubber spatula to really pack it in and get all the air bubbles out. Now, a hint for this is if you lightly oil your measuring cup before you put your sticky peanut butter or shortening in, it will come out very easily with a rubber spatula. So the last important skill when working with food is food safety. We want to be sure that everything we cook is safe to eat and won't make us or anybody else sick. Oh, that's awful. So proper hand washing is one of the easiest things we can do to keep our food safe to eat and prevent the spread of bacteria. So the first thing with washing your hands, and these posters are also available on our Nutrition Education for Wellness site, which I'll give you the URL again later at the end of the webinar. The first thing you do is turn on the faucet and wash your hands. Then turn off the faucet. Turn the water off and put soap in your hands. What you're going to do is scrub your hands for 20 seconds. You not only want to scrub in the palms of your hands, but also the back, around your thumbs, between your fingers, and don't forget your nails. The reason why we want to turn the water off before putting the soap on is many people will put the soap on, quickly put it under the water, and then your soap runs away, and then you're not using soap to actually scrub. If you don't have a clock, you can sing happy birthday to yourself twice, and that will amount to about 20 seconds. Okay, so after that, turn the water on, rinse off all the soap. Make sure the kids get all that soap off, because any soap residue that's on there that they put in their mouths could really make them feel ill. And then turn the water, after you rinse off with water, get some dry paper towels to dry it off. And after that, use it to turn off the faucet so you don't reintroduce the germs back on your hand. Temperature. So also to keep food safe, temperature matters. The refrigerator temperature should be between 34 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit at all times. And it's good to have a refrigerator and freezer thermometer so you know what it is. You want to wrap any kind of perishable food, such as raw meat, fish, poultry, and shellfish really well so they will not leak and contaminate other foods. And if it's possible, stir them on the bottom of the refrigerator. So just in case you do get a leak, it will not contaminate everything below it. And foods in the freezer should be at or below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. In the freezer, you want to use moisture-proof wrapping like foil, freezer bags, or freezer paper. And be sure to keep an inventory of freezer contact. You don't want it to go into the dark hole. And always use the rule, first in, first out. I'm not sure if abroad they have product dating, but if some of your products have dates on them, many people are confused by what they mean. Your sell-by date is the last date of sale, but it also allows for the consumer to store it and use it at home. So the sell-by date isn't the final date that it can be used. Now, that's different from a use-by date, because a use-by date will tell you how long the product will be of top quality after you buy it. Now, an expiration date is what you want to pay attention to, because that's the last day the product should be used or eaten. And a pack date is very confusing because it tells you when a canned or packaged food was processed and canned, but it does not tell you how long the food will be good. So those are some different terms there. And once your foods are prepared and served, remember the danger zone. 40 degrees to 140 degrees Fahrenheit is when bacteria grows most rapidly, and in fact can double in number in as little as 20 minutes. So as you gather for your 4-H meeting, be aware that perishable foods that are sitting out in temperatures in this danger zone can be harmful. So if you have hot foods, make sure you keep them hot at 140 degrees or higher. And if you have cold foods, keep them cold to 40 degrees or lower. We have a handout on our Nutrition Education for Wellness site addressing leftovers. And if this is something that you have at your sites or at your 4-H club meetings, download this leftover handout. And in a nutshell, basically, it tells us that perishable food that's been left at room temperature for more than 2 hours should be discarded. Here on Kauai, it gets really, really hot. So if you have temperatures above 90 degrees, the rule is to throw it out after an hour. Whenever you have hot foods that you want to refrigerate as a leftover, make sure you cool them in low, shallow containers. Because if we put them in deep containers and refrigerate them and stack them in our refrigerator or freezer, that 40 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit will be right in the middle, and that's how you get spoilage and food poisoning. You want to use any cooked leftovers stored in the refrigerator within 3 to 4 days. And if you should freeze anything, make sure you thaw your frozen food in the refrigerator and never on the counter. And reheating leftovers should be done really quickly to 165 degrees and using a food thermometer to determine that temperature. Okay. At your sites, you may have children who have food allergies. Food allergies are very common these days, but 90% of food allergies are connected to these 8 different foods or food groups. So milk, eggs, fish, crustacean shellfish like shrimp, your tree nuts like almonds and walnuts, peanuts, wheat, and soybeans are on the top food groups that give people allergies. So at your site, be aware of any food allergies that the children or anyone might have, and make sure that everyone knows of any food allergies. So there's tons of information out there. You can go online and find tons of information. And we went through a lot of different information today. So what are some reputable sites that we can go to? First of all, we do have a 4-H foods curriculum, and this is what it looks like. Some of you might use it at your center. And this curriculum can be purchased from this website on the bottom. And the good thing about it is that activities are grouped by recommended age groups. And I really like using the first 2 booklets because they're suitable and can be adapted for any age group starting a 4-H cooking project. In here, you not only have things to prepare, but experiments that allow the children to try different things and to learn from these experiments. Our Nutrition Education for Wellness website, and this is the URL right here on the top, contains a library of information covering curriculum and teaching materials. You can find cookbooks with tested recipes in there and other resources that you can download. So this is a very small sampling of some of the items you can retrieve from this site. So I would recommend you write that down. On the far right, that blue, it says for hand washing posters, click here. That hand washing poster that I showed you earlier can be obtained from this, this website. And it's good to place right over your hand washing sink in your kitchen or your 4-H cooking facility. So when we cook with children, I want to share with you some suggested tips to reinforce with the children. So everyone should always wash their hands properly before cooking. Everyone, children and adults. Wait until the dish is done before sampling it. You all know of someone who stuck their finger in your dish because they wanted to taste it. Well, especially in a group setting, this could contaminate our dish, or worse, make that person sick if it contained raw items that needed to be cooked. Keep instructions simple and give instructions one step at a time. This not only goes for young children, but anyone who's new to cooking, especially if it's foreign to them. Repeat directions as often as needed. Working in the kitchen can be a fun place, but it can also be a dangerous place if rules are not followed. Provide constant supervision with young cooks. Be sure an adult is always present when you have young cooks in the kitchen. And children will love to cook and taste new foods. But also, don't forget to give them jobs to help with cleanup too. It's part of the project. And provide children with positive feedback to encourage continued participation in the kitchen. Because with your guidance, you can grow a group of healthy, self-sufficient kids. Okay, so let's review to see how much you learned today. As I read each statement, I want you to answer by selecting a yes or no. And we're going to practice using some of the bells and whistles on Blackboard Collaborate. So if you look on the left side of your screen, you see a check mark, you see a happy face, something else, a hand, and a check mark. And if you scroll your mouse over that check mark, you'll have a drop-down menu that says yes or no. So I'm going to read each one, and I want you to answer if you think the answer is yes or no. Okay? So, number 1, it's important to assign age-appropriate skills when cooking with kids. Okay, so scroll over and check yes or no. Okay? Number 2, the most common kitchen accidents are burns, cuts, and falls. Yes or no? So scroll over and choose yes or no. Okay, we're going on to number 3. There are different measuring cups for dry and liquid ingredients. Okay, yes or no? Okay, number 4. Everyone should wash their hands for 20 seconds before handling food or eating. Okay, you scroll over the check and choose yes or no. Okay, I think you guys have got it now. Okay, number 5. The danger zone is between 40 degrees to 140 degrees Fahrenheit and is when bacteria grows most rapidly. Yes or no? Okay, and then the last one, the most common food allergens are from milk, eggs, fish, wheat, crustacean shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, and soybeans. Yes or no? Okay, great. Well, you know what? All the answers are yes, and you did really, really well. Okay. Okay, we're gonna play with one more of our tools. Okay, so I see some of you are having difficulty. So I want your honest opinion. So let us know um, the answers to these questions, and I want you to use your chat box. And there's a code. So in your chat box, all you need to do is answer the 3 questions, and if you have any comments. So was the content helpful to you? If the answer was yes, type in C1. If it was no, type in C2. If the length was appropriate, type in L1. If not, type in L2. And if you learned something new today, if it's yes, type in N1, and no, type N2. And include any comments that you have at this time. And also, if you have any questions that you want answered at this time, feel free to type them in. Okay? Well, thank you very much. Is there no questions? Yes, I can somehow make this PowerPoint available, but the webinar is being recorded, so anyone will be able to get on and listen to it themselves. And if there are no more questions, thank you so much for participating in this webinar with me. And remember to have fun by practicing safe cooking and food skills in the 4-H Cooking and Nutrition Project. Aloha.